Welcome back to E-Talk, where we make entertainment make sense. And today's topic is turning followers into bankable investments. And joining us today to have this conversation is Nemo, and she's a psychologist by profession, but is earning a large amount of money of her income from social media. Of course, she does social media marketing, and she also does social media management for different accounts. She does have a YouTube channel with over 5,000 followers, and she's here to give us some tips and point out how to earn money using your followers. Hi, Nemo.
Hi, Natasha. How are you?
Are you doing great?
I'm doing good. Excited, a bit nervous, but I'm very excited for this conversation.
Don't be. So we're just gonna go straight to it, and we're gonna just ask you, about your social media life and when you started posting videos. Just give us a little bit of history of how you just got into the social media game.
Okay, so I've actually been in the social media space since about 2013 or 2014. It initially started with me writing a blog. I am also a writer. I really love writing. I love that aspect of storytelling and the beautiful nature that comes out of just telling a story through your imagination. So since my niche that I had chosen was natural hair, it had gotten to a point where people actually needed to see my hair action, how I take care of my hair, just my day-to-day activities with my natural hair. So that's how I transitioned into YouTube and social media. So for the last 9 years, I've been creating content, learning the industry, even working behind the scenes within the advertising agency as a social media manager. So it's been an interesting 8 to 9 years, and I feel like there's constantly a lot that you're learning in the social media space. So that's basically how my journey has been. A lot of creating, a lot of learning, but it's been a very interesting one.
All right. So my next question would be, did making money off, YouTube, you've talked about you being in the space for 9 years. Did making money off YouTube and other social media platforms start directly, or did it take some time, for you to nurture your page and get things wrong, and now it's right?
It did take a lot of time. One thing people need to learn is social media is mostly about time and effort. As much as it's about creating your content, telling a story for your brand or for your personal brand, you really need to put in a lot of time, a lot of effort, and what people don't like having a conversation about, a lot of money. For you to earn proper money from social media, there's some effort you're supposed to be putting. One, content creation. It takes me about 4 hours to just record one video. Add another 2 to 3 hours for editing, and then now you also have to do your branding on social media. How you're going to promote your work, how you're going to get it to other people. So it took a number of years before I started making money. I'm going to say maybe 4 or 5 years of being on social media. So having to learn my niche, how to tell my story, how to create, how to take a photo, how to take videos, how to edit. There's a lot that you need to learn before you make that money. But once you start making that money and you realize that consistency, like how you work yourself, what you want to create, it becomes easier. But it does take a lot of time and effort before you actually get that to a point where you're seeing actual returns from your investment.
I'm glad you said that, because many people just want to, take in and not give out, in terms of, finances. Can you tell us maybe a rough estimate of how much you've used on a video, to get those returns back? And did you actually get those returns back?
Yes. Okay. So I will give you an example of a campaign I ran with a brand 2 years back. This was 2020. So in total, for my production cost, it came to about, I'm going to say 10,000 for the videos, a bunch of those, also editing. I had a bit more equipment, like my mic. So also need those tools. Your editing to be good, your audio to be perfect, everything not perfect necessarily, but actual high quality. So it took about 10,000, but the returns were about 10 times how much I put in. So you can put in a bit of money, maybe 5,000, 10,000, but then the investment, that what you will get back will always be even at least triple what you have put out.
So the question would be then, how then do you convert this into this money or followers into money?
Okay. So there are several things, and this once you get these few things, you're able to get where you're going. So first, you need to find your niche and your topic. What most people tend to mistake is you don't just talk about everything. You need to be a credible source in a particular topic, a particular niche. For example, within the natural hair community, I like justifying myself as a credible source. People can come to me and I can give them information that is relevant, realistic, and actually works for their needs. So once you get that topic or that niche, you just work on it. Next thing, you really need to cultivate relationships with your community. At the end of the day, you have to talk to somebody on the other side. So you as a brand or as a brand, if you don't have an audience or you're not communicating with people, having a conversation with people, you're not going to get anywhere, because your question will be, who are you talking to? Who are you selling to? Like, who is your target audience? If you don't have an audience, you're not going to go anywhere. Lastly, you have to be very authentic. And I know that sounds very vague, but a lot of it is mostly about energy, how you communicate to people, how you come out to people. So if you're not authentic with yourself and your brand, what you like, what you don't like, it will get confusing for you to actually pinpoint something that you can talk about for hours on end. You do not mind the hard work that goes into it for you to convert your followers into actual money, into a revenue. So have a topic that you're very good at and you can become a credible source, put in that time and effort and be authentic with your brand. It takes a lot of time. Consistency is key. Just keep building, keep building. Majority of us have been in the industry for years, and it's just it's ever changing.
All right. So you have to clarify this notion for me. There is a notion, especially I see this with a lot of Kenyan social medias, the many followers you have equals the amount of money that is made on social media. Is that true?
No, it's not true. That's one of the myths that we really have within the industry. Okay, so technically, the more followers you have, it means more people are watching you. But what tends to happen, you can have a large follower base, but then you don't have any engagement. Engagement is practically the people that you're talking to, who is commenting, how many people are liking, is your content shareable, are people talking about you outside of your page? So you can have 100,000 followers but only receive 100 likes or 100 comments on a post. You can get somebody that has 10,000 followers but the engagement is within the 1,000 range. So as much as we have this notion, the more followers you have, the more money you make. At the end of the day, when you come to a brand, or that a brand approaches you to sponsor content or just to pay you for creating content, they will always look at the engagement, because on social media, that's one of the main metrics that you have to look at, your engagement. People spend with content for you to be paid for that content.
And you just took the second question, the next question that I was going to ask you right out of my mouth. The question was going to be, what does a social media user need to consider to turn followers into money? And you've talked about all those things that you've talked about. Is it shareable? Is it likable? Are you talking to people? Is there any one last thing that you could advise users, social media users?
Quality over quantity. The thing with the era we're in, 2022, is majority of the smartphones that are coming out are either in 4K, some are even being made in 8K. So you really need to look at your quality. Most people say start with what you have. If you have a phone that can take videos, start with that. But you also need to consider, is the quality worth it? Is somebody going to be able to sit down, enjoy the video I have, and enjoy the quality as well? You can have a good message, but if your quality is lost or it's not appealing to somebody's eye, sorry to say, you will lose an audience. You will lose your income.
Right.
You must really look at quality. Yeah.
That is something really to consider. So I was on social media one day, and one very influential person said how Kenyan celebrities they have so many followers, but they're not bagging enough cash. I don't know if that is true, but where do you think social media users with a lot of followers are going wrong when their content isn't making them enough money?
Also, here we start with the content is very irrelevant. What people tend to forget is you need to understand the audience that you have. My followers might not be the same followers that you have. So I cannot have people that follow me for maybe, let's say, football tips, I mean, many sports tips, right? And then all of a sudden I start talking about selling cars or high-end cars. You can see there's already that disconnect between the information your audience wants and the information you want to give. So you really, really need to look at your audience yourself. And I know what you mean. A lot of Kenyan celebrities have these big numbers, but you never see them doing anything significant that you would think that, this is how it's supposed to look at. So the second thing you'd have to look at is yourself as a person, like your personal brand. At the end of the day, you need to realize that these brands that are going to pay you money for your content also need to look at you as a person. How do you carry yourself? What's the type of content that you're posting? Are you constantly chasing clout? Are you constantly being unprofessional in a sense? Like there's certain characteristics that brands don't like. Are you constantly just spewing hate online? Are you constantly having fights? So again, are your conversations relevant? And you yourself, as your personal brand, are you proud of how you portray yourself? Are you able to say that ABCD brand can approach me and they will not have any problems with who I am as a person or my personal beliefs per se?
All right.
I hope that has made sense.
Yes, it actually has. So, I mean, 5,000 YouTube followers, 37,000 views, over 37,000 views accumulatively. I can't even count. What can you credit your success to?
Authenticity.
All right.
I'm just going to put it plain and simple, authenticity, because something you will notice or you might have seen with most people is they're very wishy-washy. There's no particular standard that they have. There's no particular voice that you're able to recognize with this person. So this person is always having this whole faking thing, like they don't show you the actual life, like you cannot relate to that person. So for me personally, it's my authenticity. If I'm having a bad day, I'll explain I'm having a bad day, because I also speak about mental health issues. Because having a bad day is very human. So just get into your authentic nature and just being real, showing people who you actually are, makes a huge difference.
And I heard you talk about, always replying to DMs and talking to the people on the other side. How important is it for relationship building? How important is relationship building while you're trying to get through on social media?
It is very, very important. That's one thing you can never go wrong, because social media is all about creating communities, bringing people that have the similar interests together to talk about the topics that they are interested about. So if you're not able to communicate with your audience, you don't reply to their messages, you don't reply to their DMs. At times it can get hectic. There's so many DMs, there's so many comments, but if you don't take time to nurture that conversation, or even just have normal conversations with them, it doesn't have to be constantly quality produced content. You have IG stories where you can go have a live session with your audience. But if you make them know that you think about them, that you're part of the family, that it also creates brand loyalty, because they become your brand ambassadors. They're able to say, oh, so-and-so's content really resonates with me, you should check it out. And they're very, very open. If you have questions, they'll be there to respond. So it's that human connection. We're always looking for a human connection. So if you can build that connection with your community, you're strengthening your brand.
All right. So there's a word that you've constantly been using, and this is the last question that I'm going to ask you before we let you go. You've been talking about branding, and I think you've overemphasized brand. That's what you've been saying. But what exactly is this branding? When people are talking about branding, people are saying I'm a brand, but what do you mean branding?
By a brand. Okay, so in basic terms, branding is tools and assets that you use to differentiate your brand and give an identity to your brand. I would say, for example, these are your colors, your logos, your phrases. A very good example is Nike, just do it. So when you hear just do it, that is purely Nike. So that's part of their branding. So even a simple phrase, can be your branding, your colors. And when you get deeper into social media, it's usually even your tone of voice. How do you talk to people? How do you interact? That's all under branding. So if you just look at it like what picture, if you were to give somebody a picture and explain this is how my brand looks like, it will just encompass all of it. It's basically who you identify as on a social media space.
All right. So the second part of that question would be, what are the effects of branding financially, good or bad, on a social media user looking to earn from their followers?
Okay. So branding, again, is one of those critical steps that can make or break, right? Because if you're not able to identify what is the topic you're discussing, like who, the brand yourself, what topics you talk about, how you come across, and the message you're constantly pushing, there'll always be this disconnect and you don't know what exactly you're doing. Because if you don't have branding, it means you don't have a plan. Like your name, even your name on social media, that's part of your branding. So if you're not able to create that, and that's why even part of the investing comes in. Because if you're not good at the graphics, you'd obviously have to get somebody, maybe a designer, and be like, hi, I'd like maybe an email signature. That's part of your branding. So now when you communicate with brands, when you're trying to share ideas or reach out to people, whenever they see your email signature, they're like, oh, this is associated to that person. So part of branding is very important. On the good end, it gives you exposure. It gives you this credibility that you're somebody that takes your brand very seriously. Like you have a plan, as I mentioned. If you go onto social media without a plan, you will get confused. I've done that. I did that in the beginning. And it was very confusing because I wasn't even sure what name do I want to use, what are my colors. So branding is very, very important. Don't look at it as a negative side, because at the end of the day, when you put that effort or you invest in very good branding that speaks to you without you having to explain yourself, you've won half the battle.
All right, so the last question before now I seriously let you go is anything you'd like viewers to know about content creation? So much I've learned actually in the 15 minutes that I've been with you, but anything that you would like content creators, viewers watching Metropole TV to know, to know exactly what it is to be a social media, user?
Okay, so how I normally like telling it, content creation is telling a story, because at the end of the day, when you look at everything, there's a story to be told. So content creation, or what content creators do, they tell stories through their point of view, because at the end of the day, we'll mostly have the same experiences. We shop in the same places, you buy makeup in the same places, or you travel places. But what differentiates content creators from each other is just that aspect of telling a story and telling it in your unique character. Because at the end of the day, what makes social media beautiful is that uniqueness, the difference you get to see every day. When you scroll on your feed, you see something different. It might be the same topic, but it's told in a different way. So if you're a content creator, if you're thinking to get into the field, learn how to tell your story your way, because you need to find that unique aspect about your storytelling to be a content creator.
All right, thank you so much, Nemo, for that. That was such a enlightening conversation. Make sure you talk to us on Metropole TV KE if you loved that conversation, and if there's anything that you need to add. We're going to break, but we'll be right back with Real Talk.